it's clear that people are turning to technology. In a sense, you're there, I believe, in what is a very changing world in technology and how we are communicating in the global village, kind of scenario.
Like definitely a shift in consciousness and how that is manifesting itself or how we experiencing it, because it's really starting to move fast. But what does it look like on the other side?
The closer we
And
get to the plug hole, the faster the spiral goes. Hey.
It's a good analogy.
A good explanation. I just don't think it's going to change. But I think what's interesting is that neuroscience is advancing really, really a lot too, and there's so much to take away from that. I find it very interesting.
Yeah. And for me, there's an enduring interest in that place where science and spirit connects. And I think
Correct.
that's
Correct.
that's what drew me to the title of this group.
Ari, do you have any sense, just getting back to your question of what it might look like?
it's a difficult one because I'm trying to figure it out, because I don't think it's quite what we envision, in the sense of, like, you know, rainbows, unicorns, like the perfect life, all challenges are gone, all that kind of stuff. I do think there's a big part of it is going to be in community and gatherings and collectives, basically. So the whole shift idea has been around for a long time. It's not something new. From ascension to the rapture to the Mayan and the Mayan calendars and the change of that, or the yugas from the Sanskrit side, or first density shift, more like the modern idea of it. I think in the density shift, how much we can handle as humans energetically to bring that in and how to shift that. But I think there's a widening of consciousness and acceleration big time with AI, because any consciousness in the system
Oh, yeah.
is lifts the average level of consciousness up. So it doesn't matter like where that consciousness comes from, seemingly artificial or silicon based or carbon based or nature or earth itself, or from whatever angle you want to look at it. I think it's very much the amount of energy. So the higher the density, the more energy that we can hold. But in that shift is also a movement to love and unity. Not at the highest level, as in full awakening or something, as a general level. I think, first of all, smaller groups, and then a combination for that. And we see this now in the politics and the groups and the woke and unwoke and all that kind of stuff. It's manifesting itself as the negative polarity. But in that negative polarity, there's collectives, basically tribes coming together, and they still see it as fighting. But to balance that, we need to start connecting with another tribe and forming a different tribe at a higher vibrational level, at a more conscious level, instead of in the dirt, lower chakras, kind of survival, fighting, power, greed, all that kind of stuff. It's more about sharing and working together and and consensus and coming into basically co-creating, or we basically co-creating our future now. But I would like to do it more consciously and less unconsciously, because we are doing it unconsciously or subconsciously at the moment. But I would like to explore how to do that consciously.
Well, I have a question around that then, because, I've been digging into purpose and soul purpose quite intensely for a while. And I'm finding that I'm coming out at an interesting place of wanting to do less and be more. I'm curious about how you translate that in this time, because there is certainly a need for people to engage, but there's a conflict with engaging when we be more. Do you know what I mean? Because there's a stilling and a distilling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is different to stepping in.
Yeah, and I think, that's the difficult part, because we're used to stepping in and doing. Is how can we step back and step in to ourselves and allow and experience without the doing and the forcing and the having agendas and goals and all that kind of stuff.
How can we step in essentially into a place of more stillness and still engage with this time of transition and change?
So, isn't the more conscious you are, the more present you are? And then, am I right? Are they much the same thing, to be conscious and to be present?
Very much so.
So then, the more conscious you are, and the more present you are, the more you are engaging without doing anything and by just being.
Yeah, I'm thinking of it more like, a couple of people sitting watching a sunset. You're there, you're all in that moment, but you don't have to do it. You're not doing anything but sitting and enjoying and being present and aware and, like absorbing and experiencing this change or this beauty together. To really be able to do, we actually need an idea of what to do and what we know to do. If we do the same thing, we're going to end up in the same place again. Because I think where we're heading to very slowly, I don't think it's going to be a quick change, but we're heading into a place where it's different. And ultimately, that's actually what we want. We don't want the same. We don't want the same repeat one more time with feeling kind of back in 3D and do it slightly different and come back at the same place.
Yeah.
So we're at the end of the map. So there be dragons. And then we're into the mystery and the unknown.
Off the edge of the world.
Yes, falling off the edge of the world. So whatever the ideas that we think we have, it's what the shift is going to be, I think is wrong to start off with. I think it will be much better. And it's one of those things where follow your passion, do what means something for you now. And that is going to come to a lot of us very fast. I think the COVID thing was a quick dress rehearsal of what it means to sit at home. But depending on how fast AI and stuff develops, in the next 5 to 10 years, there will be a lot more people sitting at home just because they don't have work. Because we're on a post-labor society. So what is a post-labor society and what does that look like?
Yeah.
That's the retirement thing. You used to going to work and all that kind of stuff, working every day, blah, 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 sorting the kids out or whatever, and then kids leave the home and then it's like, oh, now it's empty nest syndrome. And then we head to retirement and it's like, okay, so where's my meaning in life now? What do I do now? So for me, it's like basically 3D going into retirement and moving into a fourth density or fifth dimension. And we're not quite sure what to do because there's too much freedom. So having no choice is a problem. Having a little choice is actually easy. Having a lot of choices is really difficult because then we're overwhelmed and we can't actually compute because we got nothing in the past to actually project into the future.
We need structure.
Yeah.
You know, I hear you in saying that you, let's say, moving into retirement, but that's also moving into eldership or elderhood,
Yeah.
which is what the world is needing more of than ever before.
Yeah.
You know, and just getting back to the earlier question of like, how do we, because on some level, what's happening here in this group, what is this community, and how does it affect change? And that's like one little bubble of a question, but I mean, it's an interesting, for me, there's a difference between moving into retirement and kind of turning off and clocking out versus stepping into, and not advisory, but a role of guidingship.
Yeah, it's also where how we see it was once again a belief system on, okay, now we're finished and done, now we're retired, where it's actually, you know what, we paid our dues, we got a little bit of wisdom, hopefully picked it up. Definitely picked up some experiences along the way. And then it's the freedom of like, how do you create your life now? And I think that's very much where the shift is, that open freedom. So like, how do I express and experience life that's in a way that's meaningful for me, but also of some sort of service to others? And once again, that service to self and service to others is also the same thing.
Yeah.
Because if there's only oneness, then it doesn't matter. So, because you can say that if you're in solitude mode and you ponder and you're really getting into yourself and sorting out shadow work or finding what's working for you, that's very much service to self work. But in that exploration, there is also the ability to share, so the wisdom. And we are actually overwhelmed with information. But only if we apply information, it becomes knowledge. But knowledge doesn't mean anything if we also don't apply that. And when we apply our knowledge, that is when it becomes wisdom. What would a wise world look like? Because that's ultimately what we want, isn't it? Or that's an option.
I'm just starting to understand that isn't the case, and that these people, that movement is necessary. For me, that's what a wiser world would look like. Is not everybody has to look like me.
Yeah, well, that that would be like the end of wisdom.
We like to think that for any feeling, thinking person, the advent of someone like Trump coming into power is horrendous and painful and all dark and tragic. But I think not that it was a clean wind, but it was a wind. It was a necessary wind. I think the establishment had grown so moribund. It was the democratic establishment was so corrupt that it just crumbled, Anyway, we're not here to talk about American politics. I beg your pardon.
No, but it's in the extremes, and it's like it's in your face. So a lot of what's happening there is like a good hard look at the underbelly of the beast. It's like, okay, this is what it's like, and this is like this what this looks like, and this is what this looks like. And that's where a whole lot of the subconscious stuff is coming up into the consciousness. And I think that is a big part of the shift that's happening.
Yeah.
So it's going from awareness of your normal waking consciousness, like we're experiencing at the moment. But now there's also aware of the subconscious coming in. And that's brutal, because we have to also deal with all of that. And we're going to have to deal and embody and make peace and work with all of those parts of us and of the collective. Because I haven't thought about it like that, but if you think about what is wisdom, and to be wise, it doesn't mean that everything is perfect and everybody agrees and all of that kind of stuff, and that there's no polarities or anything like that, because there will still be polarity. How much of the polarity do we need? We gain knowledge in all ways, so in good and bad events. The ones that really brings us wisdom is actually the bad events that we go through, what we perceive as bad events.
No question.
Those are the ones that make us wise. So after the relationships that you were lonely in and you didn't connect with your partner and you had to sit there and do all of that kind of stuff, as an example, because you mentioned it earlier. So that was information that we gained from that event. There was knowledge about our reaction and the other person's reaction and our states of emotional state, mental state, energetic state, physical state, all the bodies, how all those bodies were affected by that. But having stepped back from it, experience, survived it, overcome it, and taken the essence of who and what you are, because it's all the events just teach you about yourself, not about the other person or anything like that. It's who and what's happening for you, and it's taking that information and embodying it, living it, and then turning that into wisdom. The shift into a wise consciousness or wiser consciousness is actually worth pondering. And where do we get our wisdom from? So first of all is experience, but then there's also, you can't be wise if you blinkered, if your outlook is very blinkered, and you're in your own head with all your own beliefs and everything like that, there's no wisdom in that. You just sitting in your own little tower and believing yourself to be great and wise, but you're not. To have wisdom, we need to expand our consciousness. And that's where the shift is. So it's how do we expand our consciousness and take in all of these things and share it?
I think for me, like the one critical piece for me in this conversation is the earth and nature, because if we don't use our wisdom to hold our system steady, the system that we actually need, it all doesn't matter much. That's probably the most astonishing thing about the world, is that there's so much intelligence and so much sort of technological development and so many incredible skill sets, but we're just not applying it in the right places fast enough.
So much intelligence and so little wisdom. What's actually?
Well, and also, you know, I think one of the things that I'm battling with is our sense of our own importance. It's not clear to me. It's only just becoming a little bit clearer to me how very ancient the planet is, and how many huge, violent extremes it has already gone through. How many really dry, really cold, really hot periods it's already been through, you know. So I'm a member of Extinction Rebellion, so I have been fighting as hard as I can to slow all kinds of things and stop all kinds of things, and I've been through climate grief where I couldn't stop myself crying for weeks. It seemed I never knew when I was going to just dissolve in tears. But now I'm a little bit, that conviction is a little bit shaken. Because before I had no idea there were once huge civilizations that lived completely underground, or that, you know, there were huge swathes which are now deep under the sea that were once grassy plains. And do you know, the life that covered the planet has been so utterly different so many, many times. And so maybe I'm just needing to comfort myself or hide from the horror of what we're doing. But maybe I've gone a bit psychotic and I'm starting to, you know, believe in beings from other planets and so on. But when Ari used that word expansion earlier, it was around that. You know, I never thought I would be somebody who would even faintly entertain the idea of aliens from other planets being here. But no, it doesn't seem at all impossible that they are among us. I mean, who am I to say they're not?
Yeah, they've been among us, and they in different forms, and we call it different things. If you just look at the universe and how big it is, and we're the only forms of life in the whole universe, it's like, come on, get real. There's gazillion, brillion, billions, trillions of galaxies with trillions of stars. And yeah, we're in this one planet, and we're just sitting here, and we're so important. But I think that will also be part of the major shift that I feel might happen pretty soon. Who knows? And that's meeting the neighbors. So when we do meet our galactic neighbors, and that's just going to blow everybody way out the water.
I don't know though, Ari. Don't you think that um, people won't see them until they're ready, until they can?
Once again, in that realm where we actually got no idea. If we start having open contact, and I mean, UFOs is not a new thing. It's in the Bible, it's in the Mahabharata, in our myths and our stories. That's very deeply aligned and ingrained and imprinted in our DNA. But then we must also be careful that we don't personify all these things and expect them to be little human things. Because it can just be energy streams or intelligent streams, and they can come in all forms.
We all look up.
Yeah, so, and that's the spiral of evolution, is towards the light.
Yeah.
So as we move and as we progress from our personal spiritual journey and awakening into the galactic or cosmic or whatever the spiral is, up through the densities or the dimensions, that's all a growth towards light. But how much light can you handle? And how much light can flow through you?
And that's really what our main job is, isn't it? Is to enlarge and strengthen our capacity. If we are to see ourselves as vessels, then we have to be the best. We have to try and not have cracks and holes, and we have to try and not be too rigid.
Yeah, it's like being a dye or an ink or something. So it's like how the purity of each drop. So if you've got a big bucket of water or whatever, you want to change the color or dye it or whatever. So it's like every little drop goes into the water, and it's each one of those little drops is very important. But if you have like 10 blue drops and then one yellow drop, it will change the color of it, and it might actually be exactly what's needed for that dye or that ink that you're creating. But yeah, the purer your drop is, that you're contributing to the whole. And as more of us contribute to the whole, the darker the color will be. And the more pure each one of our drops are, the purer that ink or that dye will be at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And then whatever flows through that will pick up that color. So you don't need a lot of dye to dye a lot of cloth, for instance. And because it's so difficult for us to see the importance of each one of us. But if you can see yourself as that little bit of drop that contributes to that bucket of dye, and how vitally important it is. Because maybe that last drop that would just make that dye exactly right. But you're not going in, you're not jumping into the bucket. So then that whole bucket can't be used because of you. So we can think of a drop of dye going into the bucket as not very important, but if you're the last little drop to get that formula 100% correct, and you're not jumping in, then nothing can be used of that whole bucket of dye. question is, are we still unimportant?
Yeah, I'm just translating what you're saying into air and thinking if every time we offer ourselves, other people are breathing in a little bit of that and being changed, it's important. It's important that we just keep that exchange happening.
Maybe it works better to see it as a tapestry or a fabric that we're all weaving together,
Beautiful.
and then
Yeah.
you know there's if we're making a pattern, there's certainly some threads should be more dominant than others.
Yeah, I always use the pixel on a screen thing,
Yeah,
because you can have like millions of pixels, but just one. That one little dead pixel will catch your eye. We don't see any of it if we're just looking at a picture. But you have a TV or a phone or something with one dead pixel. Trust me, you pick that up very soon. And that affects the whole picture. So what is the picture? What are we weaving? What's the tapestry? What colors are we using?
Kindness is my color, I hope.
I do agree with that.
Good.
You know what? There's a kind way to do everything. And I think 50 years of nursing really taught me that. I've been not always great myself. We go through student phase, we're not probably as compassionate, definitely not. And you grow and you grow and you grow. And just all the way, just a bit of kindness calms a patient whatever it is. It is just
so true, so true.
fosters trust so quickly. And that, as the older I got, it was more about that trust than anything else. Once you trusted each other, you, the carer or caregiver, whatever you want to call us. Oh, there were so many exhilarating moments that, yeah, really powerful. Kindness, it can never be kind enough.
That is actually, yeah, say no more. We could just get that one right and focus on that. And that goes for everything. And it's also in the kindness that we don't realize that we're giving. And that's the thing with kindness. That's more a state of being. That's a natural outflow of who and what you are. It's not something that we're trying to do or be kind, or that's because the kindest moments in my life was complete strangers. And I was stuck down, out, whatever, and somebody would just acknowledge you, smile at you. They didn't know, but for me, basically, that changed life for me in many ways.
Yep.
In one kind look, one kind gesture, because it's beyond words.
Kindness, it can never be kind enough.